Midrash, by the way.
Erev Tov, everyone. Welcome. Tonight, I guess we can say tonight's kind of a dream come true. Kind of literally. I mean, look around at this space. Look around what we're doing here. We're about to really use the space truly in what it's named for. It's a Beit Midrash. And we're going to be learning together, and we're going to be talking together. You know, we have this dream here that we've been developing and building step by step over the past few years of making this center of the building the heart center of the kehillah, of the community. That what happens here really informs everything else. And look at the people sitting next to you and across from you. This is kehillah. This is community. This is it. And it's something that you're owning and conversing and in facing the other and seeing the Torah that can be lifted up in connecting with each other. That's Kedusha, that's holiness, and from that holiness comes all the holiness that we're about as a community. So welcome everybody. We're making dreams come true, and we're lifting up the sanctity not only of this shul but of the Jewish people and of the world tonight. And as we open up our first open Beit Midrash night tonight, I just want to set an intention, a kavanah, that especially as we think about our people in Eretz Yisrael and in the struggles that are happening there and the violence that is breaking out there, that we dedicate the real connection and the hearts opening up and really listening to each other. May the energy of that open heart branch out beyond this space into the world around us and bring healing to our people and to all peoples in the land of Israel and everywhere. Amen. Amen.
I may be small, but I'm mighty. So I'm thrilled to see all of you here. As Gil said, this is totally a dream, and not just of ours, but of Aaron's too. And what a beautiful thing to have all of you here tonight. So just quickly, I want to just give you a sense of what the year is. On your tables, there is a Makom booklet, and in it, you're going to see 7 months of programming. Those 7 months, what we're spending on this year is how to build a religious heart. That's really what we're doing. What does it take? You know, our society spends a lot of time on telling us what religion is and how it plays out in our lives. So we're going to actually seize that and say, what is the progressive Torah? What's the Judaism we want to come out of this Beit Midrash? So we're going to explore what sacred conflict is, what it is to have an open heart tonight, how to listen, what's elasticity, what is imagination within the Jewish mind. And we're going to spend these 7 months exploring each of these issues. Now, just to give you a sense, each month we're going to have 3 different programs. It's going to be the first, second, and third Tuesday of the month. The first Tuesday is an open Beit Midrash, where Rabbis Yolkut, myself, and Alexander will be teaching some of the core texts that we want to teach on each of these subjects to kind of give us a taste. The second Tuesday of the month is going to be a special scholar who's going to come in and build on what we've already been talking about. And the third Tuesday of the month is the how-to. So there's going to be a practical toolkit of every single month to tell us how do we do this in our lives. What do we do, for instance, next Tuesday we're going to have Sabrina Sojourner and Aaron Jenkins from OUDC teach on building a toolbox for diversity. So that each of these subjects we study not only in the mind, but in the heart, and then with our hands to figure out how we go out in the streets and make this come into play. If you can only make it to one Tuesday, we invite you whenever you can come. If you can come for one Tuesday, just come. If you can come for all 3, come. Just come when you can come, and we'll welcome you with open arms.
This has also been a dream of mine here at Addis for many, many years. All right, so I want to, 2 things, and then we're going to get to it.
The first is that we are committed to offering, to the extent possible, the Makom programming, which is to say adult learning at Addis at no immediate cost. Immediate. Which is to say, we're talking about open hearts, and we want these doors, all of them, to be open. And you know that if you come here on a regular basis. These doors are open. So, obviously, the cost of the program is, I say obviously, I'm happy to sit down and tell you about it. All this to say, this is an opportunity for all of us to become a part of the learning together, both intellectually, spiritually, and emotionally in this space, but also for those who are able, and the smallest amount, the largest amount, whatever you want to give, every single event has a registration link online, and then it will take you also to a place in which you can make a donation that will help us continue this programming this year and into the future as well. That's all on that. Yes. Did you want to say something about the Addis Fund?
The perpetual campaign.
These are, the text sheets are coming around. I want to lift up, I want to lift you all up. I mean, not physically, can't actually lift you up. We are a community that celebrates each individual. And when we don't, we know we ought to. And so, it's hard to learn Torah in a vacuum. It's hard to learn Torah with the same person you speak to every day, with the same group of people you speak to on a regular basis, with people who think exactly like you do. The idea of Torah is to stretch ourselves, and so we are really, really happy that the room is filled with people who learn from almost all segments of the Addis community. And I just want to, for a moment, recognize that Ma'alot is here, our 11th and 12th graders. We all have what to teach each other. So teach us. Teach us Torah. Okay, I'm going after it. This is your text sheet. You have it in front of you. I'm going to explain why we're here, and then we're going to get right into it and get into Chavruta. One of the things that we promise you throughout the course of the year is that we don't make any assumptions that we all know exactly why we're here or why we choose the topics that we do. But we were very careful about choosing an open heart as the first topic of the year. We didn't just decide Judaism cares about an open heart. We actually looked at the texts, the formative texts of our tradition, and saw that Judaism seems to care deeply about the lev. And so the very first text page you have, the why, is the why we're here. Everybody see it? It says the Y at the top. It has that cool Addis logo thing. That I was given permission to use just this once. All right, the why, Exodus. Here are three verses as to why we're here. The first is Pharaoh. I did them in not chronological order, but Torah order. But when Pharaoh saw that the rain and hail and the thunder had ceased, his heart thickened. His heart thickened, and he reverted to his guilty ways, as did those who were with him. So Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as God had told Moses. The distinguishing characteristic of Pharaoh, and the difference between Pharaoh and those, the peoples maybe that were around him, but certainly the slaves, was the heart. It was his heart. That's number one. Number two, Deuteronomy gets on the heart bandwagon a lot. Peel away, therefore, the thickening around your hearts, and stiffen your necks no more. A stiff neck and a covered up heart go hand in hand many times in the Torah. For the Lord your God is God supreme. and Lord Supreme, the great, the mighty, and the awesome God. God loves all this. The awesome God who shows no favor and takes no bribe, but upholds the cause of the parentless and the widow, and defends the stranger, providing her with food and clothing. You too must befriend the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. If we can figure out a way to open up our hearts, to remove the layers, then what we do is become B'Tselem Elohim in God's image, which forces us outward. That's what it means. Get rid of the layers, however that happens, whatever that is, and then we become like God, which is immediately defined as finding those on the margins and bringing them in. Parentless, widow, stranger. Food, clothing, basic necessities. That's 2. And the last, the Lord your God will peel away the layers around your heart and the hearts of your offspring, so that you will love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul, in order that you may live. And this could mean in order that you may live and not die, and it could mean in order that you should feel alive. Because that's what love has the potential to do. Why are we going to talk about an open heart this week? Because God, because Torah, because humanity, because love, and also it's in us because Pharaoh. That's what we're here to explore. Here's what Chavruta is, if you don't know. Chavruta is a group of 2, maybe 3 people, 4 max, but really 3 is what we're looking for. People sitting across the table or next to one another with a text in front of them, reading the text aloud. You can't read it to yourself. You actually have to say the words. Then with the people you're sitting with, figure out what they mean. Do we just understand the context that's there? And then we're critical. We're critical with the ideas that are present in the text. We're critical with the ideas that our own hearts are opening up to. And we're even critical with the ideas that somebody across the table is sharing. The way in which we do that is what makes Chavruta authentically Jewish, which is to say we listen, we reflect back if we need to make sure that we understand somebody, we let it seep in, interesting, here's how I see it differently. The first set of texts that we're going to be working with is the what of an open heart. The question of what is an open heart. So what we'd like to ask you to do is to, with the person sitting across from you and one other, really try to work in groups of 3. Read the text on the page. There are guiding questions. We'll give you a chunk of time to do that, like 15 minutes or so to get into it. It's going to be loud in here. You're used to learning I grew up learning in a passive way. Somebody at the front of the room like this talking and everybody else quiet. This room is going to be loud. It may be distracting at first, but if you focus, you become used to the noise, and we are a culture of noise. Then we, the rabbis, will be roaming the room, helping you, answering questions, and let's learn Torah. All right, we would like to hear from you. So basically the idea is, I say it's clean, you say it's unclean, get out of my community. Welcome to Judaism. All right, what came up in your discussions? What was expected, unexpected? What did you take out of this text? What's difficult about this text? Talk, I want to hear from you.
There's many ideas, and you respect other people's ideas. There's a problem there, though you can't act in both directions if one says plus and one says minus. But you can respect them.
Right, so there's respecting ideas. There are many ideas, but it creates a problem for action. And I want to say that that's a real issue. Right? If we're talking about creating a system of law, and we want to use the Torah as the basis by which we govern who's in, who's out, who testifies, who doesn't, who's pure and who's impure, which has implications on who's in and who's out, fit, unfit, it's slightly problematic to have a system of, well, you see it your way, I see it my way. At the end of the day, something has to bring a community together. And so there are, I think, 2 actually ideas here that are in conflict that this text is trying to deal with. And it's a tough one to figure out how it's dealing with it, Sarah.
Well, was not, the laws were not decided in this smoke-filled room where they just issued a list. So the arguments are here for a reason, for us to know them and to know how they struggle. So this isn't written in stone.
The Talmud was not created in a smoke-filled room. I just want to point out that the more Talmud you read, the more you realize it was created in a smoke-filled room.
What were they smoking?
All of the interpretations are there so that we can make ourselves like a hopper and actually pull them in and let them seep in, and that decisions are somehow made from there, which I think is true. And I just think for a minute. I mean, the author of this text is every text you read and every book you read and every memoir, everything you read is a response to something. Every newspaper article is a response to something that exists in the world for the author. And so whenever you read any text, but especially a Talmudic text or a Jewish text, or even the Torah, you want to ask yourself the question, what is the author responding to such that something like this needs to be said? Because the idea, I think, resonates with us easily. Let it all in. We need all of it. And it's clearly not obvious enough that it didn't take an exposition of a complicated verse to get us there. Did you? Other? Yeah.
I don't know, I was just thinking with this make your ear like a hopper, I'm envisioning this cool funneling of brains, a very gentle, beautiful thing, and landing in your open, perceptive heart. And to actually understand these words, when it's really like, at the end, it's cut and dried. You do this, you don't do this. Like, I found that a strange juxtaposition.
Yeah, it begins with sort of the emotional aspect of, turn yourself into a funnel and let it all in and let it all hit you. And then at the end, it's like, and then
you do this.
And then, but you're going to do this or you're going to do that.
Right.
Again, I think that tension is there as well. Other ways in which people dealt with this text.
Well, I mean, it was the question of what's the purpose of this whole exercise? Is it to just accept the views of others as being valid, or is it to try to reach some type of agreement? And I mean, I don't know. To me, it is. You try to reach an agreement, except when you can't reach an agreement, and then you accept the validity of the other person's thing. And I think, Talmudically, it seems to be that's what sort of happens. Sometimes they reach agreement, and sometimes they don't.
Right. Almost never do they reach agreement.
Sorry. Well, what it seems like you were saying a couple of was you're kind of saying that people are saying it's my way or your way, but what we read it as when we discussed it, we kind of feel like they're saying understand and see the other person and talk about both sides and come to put yourself in the other person's shoes and think about what they're saying to a certain extent.
There's almost I'm going to quickly restate, which probably not as eloquent as you did actually, that it's actually an empathic response to a certain extent. That the perceptive heart, the hopper, is one that in which you take it in, and then taking in somebody else's idea means that you sort of turn around and you try to stand in their shoes and understand how they got to that idea, which completely reframes the context of the conversation, even if there's a disagreement in the end. I want to keep in mind that it's clear. There is going to be a disagreement in the end, which is to say one shepherd, one author gives the text, and every time two people look at it, same verse. Just think about the reality in which we live in today, the news site. I don't know where to even start. Two people look at the exact same act, the very same reality, and understand it in two totally contradicting ways. And that's actually a good thing, and we have to learn how to live with that.
No, it's difficult, yes, but it's a principle. The principle is אחרי רבים להטות. So we go for the majority.
There's a principle that we lean towards the majority. After the majority, the decisions are made. Which is to say, we take everything in, and then we do a poll, and we figure out what that looks like, and there's a majority there. Good. All right.
And I think, we focus so much on the outcome as opposed to the process. And if I recall correctly, even God doesn't overrule that majority in many of the ways the story is told, because it's not the answer that really matters. It's the people listening to each other, struggling, using their perceptive parts. And as is true in our politics a lot too, these bitterly fought battles are often over something of very little consequence between one and the other. But it's having that open heart and going through the process.
Good. I want to say one thing about this text, and we'll move forward. This text had to be stated because the higher the stakes, the more walls we put up in life. So we're talking about God's word. This is God's word. This is how to live according to Torah. And so two people are going to disagree on what God's word is, and what that usually means is, if I care deeply about it and you disagree with me, at some point I'm going to push you out, and I want my opinion to stand. That, I think, historically has been proven over and over and over and over and over again. That's what excommunication is. And we're really good at it. And we still do it. What this text is getting us to is actually, as long as both people are starting from Torah as the source, if you go into it with an open heart to uplift, then there can be two truths from one text. Two truths from one text. That might make life complicated, but it certainly makes life heart-filled.
I think that since theoretically it's coming from one source, one coherent wisdom, if our heart's humble enough, that there's one essential truth, then we should be able to collectively attain it. Or at least have the humility to know that we are not attaining it, not because there's any here contradiction, but because we're simply not smart enough to understand.
Or that any of us has that truth. I mean, in one of the texts that we're going to study maybe next month, we haven't decided, there's this beautiful midrash which says exactly what you just said, which is that when God was creating the world, right, there were different ministry angels were fighting over whether humanity should be created. And the two that are really fighting with each other are truth and love. And God takes truth and throws down truth to the earth. And truth shatters into millions of pieces. And God creates a human being with love. And so the idea there is that none of us hold the truth, right? The one that holds the truth is the shepherd, the capital T. But each of us has a shard. And so when you get to your truth, actually, in order for us both to lift each other towards a higher truth, we have to be able to see each other, because only through that do we then collect the shards that are scattered all amongst us.
Yeah, I take it a step further. None of us holds the truth, but this is the closest text to truth we'll get, which is that two people seeing the world differently and deciding there's truth in both of those statements is the closest we'll get. Okay, we'll keep talking through this stuff. Yeah, the win-win. Yeah, except somebody's not going to be able to testify somewhere. All right, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Rabbi Holtzblatt for the next section.
Okay, so if you flip your page over, you see the words, the how. Actually, tonight is the debate. Use these words as you go home and turn on your TV. See how well that goes. Okay, so the how, this is the how to an open heart. We're taking you all the way back to Bereshit, where we find ourselves these days, in the cycle of the Torah, and we're in the Joseph story here. So just a recap for just a moment. Who is Joseph?
Favorite son.
Who is Joseph?
Jacob's favorite son.
Okay, so Jacob's favorite son. Okay. Okay, yes. So Rachel had both Joseph, and who else did you have? Benjamin. And what happens to Joseph in his life? Everything bad. You think of it, he's been through it. Okay. So just another figure that I want to bring up to mind, Judah. Does anyone remember who Judah is?
Judah or
Judah.
Brothers. Judah.
Who's Judah? Okay, and what does Judah do for Joseph? In the beginning.
Tells his father that he guarantees the return of Joseph, and if not,
Okay, before that, when Joseph's brothers are conniving and they want to kill him and they want to get rid of him, what does he do? Okay, so instead of killing him, he says, let's sell this guy. Let's just sell this guy, right? So the text you have, we are coming into contact, this is from Parshat Vayigash, and you're going to come back into contact with Judah and with Joseph. And so you've got a little explanation in the very bold block up top. So you want to get to the Genesis verses and then also to the Sfat Emet, which is the last box on the bottom of the page. This is the Alter Rebbe, the Ger Rebbe, and he's called the Sfat Emet. Those of you who have been learning with me on Fridays have seen his work before. So use the boxes on the side and let's hear a little more noise.
Lois, go for it.
Thoughts? What happened? What happened in your groups? What did you discover?
Can't regurgitate what she's telling us.
Everyone's laughing.
I didn't hear your question.
What happened in your groups? What did you discover? It's far better to draw close than to text. They're texting. Sarah.
David and I decided that Judah actually knew, recognized Joseph. Because otherwise you're a stranger in a strange land, and you've got this, high official, and you walk up close to him and start talking. I mean, you gotta know who that is, and he's gotta know who you are.
Okay, but what it is, so potentially he knew. Okay, that's a midrash on that. But that's the thing, if not, this is radical, that he actually came close to him at this particular point. I mean, seemingly you'd keep your distance, right? This is a high official, the drawing close is very significant here. It's not just a move, like I realized I do every time I hear someone talk.
Well, actually, it does say, let not your anger burn against your servant. So it sort of shows that he probably knew. But the idea that he says, if I could speak to you, I know that you're as high as Pharaoh. There's no reason for you to talk to me, especially, I messed up or whatever. So that he's almost like just in humility, looking at right now, not even going backwards, but just saying, would you hear me out? Would you listen to me?
So almost lowering himself, which he has to do. Yeah, Marty.
Yeah, I got to move sideways just a bit here. And to me, this is a little problematic because none of us really knew the context, and that makes it difficult to really discern the meaning. And so, getting a little clip here. Did Joseph? What was the situation? As you explained it to us, all of a sudden we had a different perspective on things than what we're hearing because of the absence of context. I don't know if that's good, that's bad, whatever. But that struck me as being, wow, I mean, we were stuck until we heard
Until I unstuck you.
Until you unstuck us, exactly.
Other thing that came up for me.
Rabbi Holtzbach, can I just say one thing about that?
Yes.
Please.
Just because I want us, as part of Makom, to be unpacking how we're supposed to do this, because for some of us, learning in Chavruta and being in a Beit Midrash might be totally unfamiliar. Right. On the wall, in several places, there are 8 Chaim Chumashes and Tanachim and amazing resources of thousands of years of wisdom. And part of what you learn when you're first entering the Beit Midrash for the first time, which some of us did at 7 and some of us do at 70, is sorry, not to bump into expensive cameras, is to go to the resources that you have. And why we're all walking, right, and so why we're all walking around is so we can point those out. So like, to say to us, like you said, to Rabbi Holtzman, but she can also not just, she doesn't only have the wisdom is also in the books. Like, let's grab an Eitz Chaim and look up the chapter in Genesis. So that's just briefly.
Always to my salvation. Okay. Why is the drawing close significant here? What does it change? Does it change anything, and how, why, how does that work?
Well, I think it meant a lot, because in the second part it says he wept aloud and the Egyptians heard. So he pretty much put himself on the line for his brothers. And I don't think we really touched on that yet. And I think that, I don't know, the way they have to look at him, that he's higher up than them already, I don't know, it just, I don't know where I was going with this.
No, I mean, there's a significant moment that's happening here. I want you to picture, I'm going to come out to all of you, but I want you to picture a Thanksgiving dinner in your family when a Thanksgiving dinner in your family when there are factions fighting with each other. Okay, you've all been to that dinner. Okay? And you are in the midst of the moment of strife, right? You know that your cousin wronged your mother, but nobody wants to say it because everyone wants to keep the peace and they're nervous about it, and you're holding the tension of that conflict all in one room. And you are like, God, get me through this evening without anyone throwing the turkey, right? So I'm making light of it, but that's the strain in this room. Like, whether Judah really knew that was Joseph, I don't really know. Could be, that definitely could be. But there's strain in this moment. They need food. He's accusing them of stealing. He knows it's them, and he doesn't know what to do with himself. In the previous Parsha, we saw him leave the room and go cry because he doesn't know what to do with himself that they're there. And all of a sudden, this gesture of drawing close makes his heart crack wide open, so much so that he can't control his weeping, that all of Egypt can hear him crying, because something significant happened in that drawing close. It broke something, broke it way open. What else? Yeah.
So if we're still answering the question about what is a persistent heart, and what I'm reading into this text, which I don't know that well yet, the two things. One is the heart that takes on risk, and also one that is able to be vulnerable. Because if you're able to do that, then you can get deeper, you see the other person's point of view, and that's really very difficult.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah.
Strikes me it's almost the ultimate act of contrition that he's come to this aha moment and says this is the only way that he can set himself right, not only with the Lord, but set himself right with his brother for the wrongs that he's done in the past. And basically, the drawing close is almost a supplication on his part to please accept, almost an apology from the deepest depths of my heart for how I've wronged you in the past.
Beautiful. So I have to close. Okay. Here's what I want to say really quickly, is that we don't always have the right words for redemption and for apology. We don't always have the words to be able to figure out how to make tikkun. And I think what this text is saying is that sometimes when everything in us says, go away, hide, keep it together, stay in your place, hold your ground, what this text is saying, no. Move towards the one. Move towards the other. And in that movement, in that gesture, something is released. Something becomes unbound, and a tikkun is possible.
Good. Okay, and finally now, the back page, the way. Okay, so what you're looking at here are parallel texts. Okay? Parallel texts. We're gonna... All right. Bye, Ma'alot. Erev Tov. Okay, so we're going to conclude with this one. This is the concluding comparison. What you're looking at, the one on the right where it says the Siddur after every Amidah, that is what we close the Amidah with. That's the final paragraph. That's the one that ends with Osei Shalom B'Bramav. It's not on this, it's not printed here, but that's what it says. And what we're looking at on the left-hand side is the original text as it appears in the Talmud. Okay, so I want you to compare the two texts, how it originally appears in the Talmud, and then how it looks in the Siddur. And I want you to talk about the differences and what those differences say about when to have an open heart. Okay, and then we'll conclude with wrapping it up. Okay, begin. Okay, let's wrap it up with this paragraph. What did you get? What's the difference and what does it say? What did you talk about? Yes. All right.
So in the Talmud version, the beginning seems the same, but where it differs is in the Talmud it says, "Deliver me from evil mishap, from evil impulse, from any evil people, and from all evils that threaten to come upon the world." It's talking about me as an individual. Save me. Help
Save me. Deliver me. That's in the Talmud. Right.
In the Siddur version, act for the sake of your name, your power, your holiness, and your Torah. Answer my prayer for the deliverance of your people. It's community. It's kavra.
It's not as me-focused. It's
us.
Us. Good. Other things that came up? Other reflections? Yeah.
Well, that the change is particularly appropriate because of where it's placed in the Amidah, because you're just finishing and about to go back into the communal world rather than your personal prayer.
Okay, so that's answer number one to when. Okay, first of all, the literal when is we've just davened the Amidah. We've just prayed. We've just done tefillah. We've just focused ourselves on what we're doing, what our sacred purpose is as a Jew before God. And now, how do we take the power of that prayerful moment and then bring it to the community, bring it to the world, to live it together with everybody else? So that's when number one. Okay? I also think there's a deeper when, which either somebody will talk about or I'll talk about at the end. But there are other whens also. Yeah. Amy.
Well, it says, "Open my heart to your Torah, and may my soul pursue your commandments." And you talked about that we're always pursuing commandments. It's not just during prayer.
Right.
We're always trying to pursue
We're always trying to pursue commandments, right? So this is putting us into that mode of living it, walking the talk. Is that what it is? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So in the Talmud version, it talks about deliver me from the evil impulse, which is my own flaws.
Yes.
That doesn't appear in this.
So that doesn't come out. Yes. Interesting. Maybe we should have kept that line. Deliver me from my evil impulse. Huh? Yeah.
Putting this in the context of the Judah and Joseph that we just read about, we are Judah. We are approaching the all-powerful. And we are asking the all-powerful to open God's heart.
Yes.
After all, it's not a one-way relationship. We want our heart to be open to Him, but we want God's heart to be open to us as well.
Yashka. Yes.
May the expressions of my mouth and the actions of my heart be acceptable. If that's true, if your words and what's in your heart, then you're controlling the evil impulse. You don't have to repeat.
Then it's already in there.
It's in there.
Okay, good. Nancy solved the problem. Yashka. Yeah, to the Talmud also. Okay, well, we're getting there. Okay, I want to wrap it up with keep in mind Judah and Joseph. That's good. I'm going to tell you a story. This is a personal story. So when I started my job before this one, I was a rabbi at Temple Israel in Ridgewood, New Jersey. And anybody here from North Jersey? Anybody? All right, I got one. Yeah, two? All right, so, North Jersey has its own particular colorful brand of reality. And I loved it, it was wonderful. But I remember, like, you know, it was years ago. I think I was like 31, and you know, young rabbi, and I'm at this congregation, and you know, it was amazing. There was this unbelievable amount of synagogue politics happening all the time, and I was right in the middle of everything. And oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. And I remember what the synagogue president pulled me aside, and she said to me, "Rabbi, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Listen to me. If you're going to make it in this business, you're going to have to go through your life here wearing a suit of armor. You got to let everything that comes your way bounce right off of you. Otherwise, you're never going to make it." And I heard that, and I said, "Thank you," but there inwardly, I'm like, oh my God, that can't be it. The truth is, I think we all know people who, in the midst of that, do develop that suit of armor. It's nishkit, as we say. So sometime after that, I was davening the Amidah, and I came to that paragraph, and I came particularly to the line that says, "V'nafshi ke'afar l'chol tihiyeh." Translate. Nafshi ke'afar, like dust to all that is. And in that, I realized, that's it. It was an aha moment. That's the way to be in the midst of crazy North Jersey synagogue politics. Right? It's not to be closed and to be hard, but to be radically open-hearted. Radically open-hearted. So that as it all flies at you, it flies right through you. And it suggests a particular kind of orientation to our own heart, to our lev. And we all know this intuitively. We all know when we are mechavedet libenu, when we are hardening our hearts like Paro. Because you can feel it. Your whole body tenses up. And it tenses up right around the heart region. You can feel it when you're getting defensive. By the way, I think that's why the line isn't there. That's in the Talmud. The tatzilei, save me, ay, 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 save me. It's the energy of save me that makes you put on a suit of armor. But Judah was courageous. Judah was fearless in that moment of approaching Paro. Joseph. Not Havdil, right? Approaching Joseph. He was kafar at that moment. He was radically open. And in that radical openness, that's courage. That's fearlessness. So, ultimately, it's not to be like this, but to be like this. And so when do we have to have a lev patuach? When do we have to have an open heart? Especially in the moment when somebody's coming right at you. In the moment when you would clench in defensiveness. In the very moment where you feel the most need to put on your armor, that's when the inherent Jewish heart has to open up. We live in a world where everybody says it's my way or you are a traitor. That's happening in the Jewish world. I get a sermon about that. It's my way or you're a traitor to the Jewish people if you don't agree with me, right? That's a heart that's like this. So we have to respond like this at that moment. It's the simplest thing in the world, and it's the hardest thing in the world. It's a practice. It's a lifetime practice of living with an open heart. And so the work begins. Thank you for coming, everyone. Thank you.